Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Nick and Gia. We just finished our month-long stay in Hanoi Old Quarter, and as you can see here, we were walking around the lake last night for Mid-Autumn Festival right before we got on a bus to head here to Sapa.
And we really just wanted to condense all of our thoughts and feelings about Hanoi, so here is our list of some pros and cons about Hanoi.
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of wrap up each place we go with like a sort of podcast-style video as we walk around the city, so that you guys can see what it would look like if you were actually here while, hearing our firsthand insights after we've been there for around a month or so. So one of the biggest things, or one of the places that we spent the most time, rather, was in Old Quarter, because we lived there. And honestly, Old Quarter is one of the coolest neighborhoods of any city that I've ever been in.
It was incredible seeing all the greenery in the streets. And one of the biggest things about Old Quarter, especially living there, is that it is very loud.
Very loud. Yeah, one thing that we definitely realized quickly about Vietnamese people is that they definitely love to play music very, very loud. Like, you can have like a group of middle-aged people having like a very normal barbecue dinner, and music will just be blaring. Like, they're not dancing, not even engaging with it, but they just love it blaring all the time. And in Old Quarter, that's everywhere, almost all the time.
I think if we were on vacation, it would be a little less of a con.
Right.
But we were working American hours at night, especially when they were having dinner. So that was a bit of a challenge. But it certainly was nice to see everyone enjoying life. And
right, I would agree with that. So, if you're a backpacker, go to Old Quarter, get as close to Beer Street as you can, because I think, honestly, that was one of the most fun places I've ever been. But if you're a digital nomad, I would suggest the French Quarter. I know a lot of things online talk about how Westlake is where to go for digital nomads, but honestly, unless you're in your maybe 30s, 40s, or 50s, I think you want to be close to the Ho Han Kim Lake, Old Quarter, French Quarter. I think that French Quarter kind of gives you that the best kind of in between like the excitement of Old Quarter and the chilled out vibe in Westlake, which I think we both found to be a little bit boring when we were there getting our tattoos.
As we're walking around this lake in this video, this is probably one of the hot spots in Hanoi. And it really is lively all the time. In the mornings, it turns into a running track and a Tai Chi area for all the older women. And it is always full of people. Here it's Mid-Autumn Festival. The previous weekend before Mid-Autumn Festival, they had like a EDM concert. Free.
You just showed up and there was a concert playing and packed. I mean, there was at least probably 1,000 or 2,000 people. And then one thing that I really liked about Vietnam is that all the kids have these like crazy big wheel like vehicles, and they just drive them around, and then like the cops will come and like take these little kids' cars and like arrest them. It's so funny. And they all hide, and when the cops come, they will hide like their big like tanks or whatever. They're all different themed. They'll hide them behind the trees or in the bushes, and it's always interesting to see. But yeah, this lake really does. It connects Old Quarter and French Quarter. And so if you're living in either, you're going to be walking past this lake a lot. It's so beautiful, no matter what time of day. Like Gia touched on, you can easily get to the lake and enjoy yourself.
Speaking of street food and the fact that it seems like it's like an unspoken rule that it's like shouldn't be done, especially when the police come through. The street food was incredible in Hanoi. From the bún cha to the pho to everything in between. Even we went to a barbecue spot where it was outside and it was on the street, and they bring a little grill to you and they serve you a plate full of meat for, how much was it?
It was like $3 or $4 per person. I think it was like very similar to Korean barbecue, but honestly, I thought it was a little bit better. They give you these big pieces of like they call them banh mi, which I guess just means bread maybe, and you get some bread, you get butter, you get so many vegetables, you get a bunch of chicken, a bunch of pork, a bunch of beef. It's super delicious, and you just kind of eat it outside. And we did that like 2 or 3 times throughout our month there. It was a really great thing to do, like on the way to Beer Street or even after, because you can just sit outside with everybody, enjoy the night. Because like that's one thing about Hanoi, the nights are just so nice. They're not as hot as the daytime, so you don't get sweaty, but you can really enjoy like the city and like the vibrancy, because it really comes alive once the sun goes down, I would say.
And as you're walking around the city, it's so easy to find good food anywhere. Good and cheap food.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest pros of Hanoi. Like, while Bangkok has maybe more options through Grab, Hanoi has more options like when you're out and about, I would say. Like in Bangkok, yeah, in your condo, you can get any type of cuisine delivered to you relatively cheaply, and that's an awesome feature of the city and probably honestly one of my favorite parts of being there. But in Hanoi, while the options are limited in a way, like you're going to get lots of bun chas, lots of, pho, banh mi, these types of staples, they're all going to be just absolutely incredible. And like, honestly, if you do 3 or 4 things perfectly, you don't need anything else, I would say. And so I think Vietnam has one of the best cuisines of any country I've ever been to.
And one of the best places that we found for banh mi was surprisingly not the banh mi 25, which has thousands of reviews on Google. We actually went there on our first day, and we were very, very underwhelmed. It was delicious.
Yeah.
But we don't understand how it had so many views.
Definitely. We had better banh mi in Houston, I would say. I would say there's 2 or 3 places when we were living. And granted, Houston is a very Vietnamese city, but that banh mi 25 was not something that I would say was like lived up to the hype of being like one of the greatest like street food places. But we found this little local couple that ran this place called Aha Banh Mi. It's AHABAMI, I believe. Very, very good. It's kind of right in Old Quarter, so just kind of wander around until you find it. And I don't know, any trip to Hanoi is not complete unless you have one of their banh mi. We tried, everything on their menu at least once?
We went there every single day. We were regulars. We got the chicken and char siu banh mi, and it is delicious. They do it a little bit differently than most places that we saw. They grilled the bread and kind of panini pressed it almost.
Yeah,
so that was a neat twist that we saw.
Yeah, and then, anything, like any discussion about Vietnam would be incomplete without touching on coffee, and we certainly had a lot of coffee. And speaking a little bit, like how we were disappointed with Banh Mi 25, we were also a little bit disappointed with the Nope Cafe or Post-it Note Cafe. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. The egg coffee there was honestly almost undrinkable. It tasted like water with egg yolk in it a little bit. But thankfully, there was tons of other great options. And so our advice would be, especially because it's so cheap, just go around and try it all over the place, and you'll find your favorite. My favorite, personally, was Kong, and they have this drink. It's called a bak siu, I believe. I probably said it wrong, but it's a white coffee, and then they add a little bit of coconut, which most places don't, and it is absolutely perfect.
And it's nice because it's a chain, too. It's all over Vietnam. Kong.
Yes, absolutely, and the people are nice. It's delicious. Would highly recommend.